Into the boroughs, the faithful tune in. Gary Mack's in the booth, let the musings begin. Orange and blue, through the highs and the lows, breaking down every pitch, cause that's how it goes. It's Mets Musings, where the stories ignite. A recap, a rant, and a Saturday night. Stats and passion, a voice fans trust. All for the team that's forever with us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Mets Musings. Well, it doesn't look like baseball weather out there today as the snow is coming down in droves. It looks like we're getting the 8 to 12 inches that they keep talking about. But we're here to talk about the Mets, and it's amazing. After last week's show where we were stymied, didn't know what the Mets were going to do, David Stearns turns around this week and just completely rebuilds his team, if you want to say that. Last week we spoke about signing Bo Bichette. Yes, and they announced that to the press. They signed him. And before you could blink an eye, he found his center fielder. He acquired Luis Robert Jr. in a trade with the White Sox. The New York team sent infielder Luis Angel Acuna and right-hander Truman Pauly to the Chicago White Sox. And for the 28-year-old Luis Roberts Jr., now, he's had an up and down career, but he's 28 years old. He's shown flashes of really a game-changing ability when he's healthy. This could be a key there, and the Mets are hoping that he can stay healthy and show some of the flash that he did a couple of years ago. So we shall see. He looked good the final couple of months of the season this year, and we'll see how he works out here. But the Mets have their center fielder. He's a terrific center fielder. It's the offense that has been up and down in his major league career. But just after doing that, as we all lamented and said, oh, we still need a starting pitching. Well, David Stern went out and got his the guy that he wanted. He got Freddy Peralta, 29-year-old, two-time All-Star, produced a 2.70 ERA over 33 starts last season from the Milwaukee Brewers, as well as right-handed swingman Tobias Myers. Now, Peralta can become a free agent after this season, but it gives the Mets rotation some a boost right away, makes them a little bit more lethal, and makes it sounds a lot better now with Peralta, McLean, Sean Manaea, Clay Holmes, Cody Senga, and David Peterson. It did cost the Mets number 3 prospect Jet Williams and number 5 prospect Brandon Sproth, who both figured to have some position with the Mets team this season, but sometimes you have to do that, You got to trade people to get the people that you want. Now, I know what the big argument is with Peralta, and that is that he will be a free agent at the end of the year, and you gave up a lot to get a potentially 1-year deal. But let's keep in mind that we don't even know if there's going to be baseball next year. I mean, the The contract with Major League Baseball is and the Players Union is up at the end of the year, and everybody's expecting either a lockout or a strike of some sort, and so, or let's just say a work stoppage. So we don't know, and I really believe the Mets are taking that into consideration with all of these trades that they've been making. That's a possibility. The same thing with Bichette; he can opt out after next year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens then. But let's concentrate on the now. So the Mets have their ace for this season in Freddy Peralta. They also have they acquired Tobias Myers, 27-year-old, who relies on above average extension and control of opposing hitters. Over 31 career starts and 18 relief appearances, Myers produced a 3.15 ERA. He has 5 years of team control remaining and should serve in a similar swingman role with the Mets, perhaps starting out in the bullpen, uh, given that the Mets have such a full rotation at the matter. Could he be this year's Griffin Canning? Who knows? But I think he's a guy to keep an eye on. Don't dismiss him as just a throw in. This was a good throw in any case, for the Mets. And yes, again, they gave up Brandon Sprout, who showed some good signs last year, and Jet Williams, that we were all very high on and wanted to see on the Mets this year. But, you know, this is what happens sometimes. So you have to trade good players and prospects, high prospects, to get the really good players, and the Mets got their ace. So what does this do to the pitching staff? Well, let's take a look at that right now. You've got, as we said, you have Peralta and McLean. Mania, if he stays healthy and can return to his 2024 performance, that'd be a great thing. Clay Holmes, who had a terrific year last year. Kodai Senga, look, he was good a couple of years ago. If he can return to that, maybe he's healthy. And David Peterson, who had his most innings he ever pitched last year, as did Clay Holmes. So they have the potential to go to a six-man starting rotation, and perhaps they should, given that Holmes was a relief pitcher for most of his career, and Peterson, pitched the most innings of his career last year, and of course, um, Kodai Senga is very used to a 5 days off, and would fit right in with a six-man rotation. Would also limit McLean and keep maybe perhaps Peralta. Now, there's ways of manipulating this where guys can still pitch on 5 days, or um, whatever they got going on there. So this works out good and would make a lot of sense for the Mets to go to a six-man rotation this year. We'll have to see what they decide, but it's crazy. And the depth they do have now, again, if Myers is in the bullpen, he can be used as a swingman. They've also got Christian Scott coming back, and he showed some potential a couple of years ago, 2024, before he got hurt. He's coming back from Tommy John surgery, but he could be a factor, and he gets to go to AAA and to continue his recovery a little bit more, so they make sure he's solid again and ready to come back. Same thing with Jonah Tong. It gives them a chance to get Jonah Tong a little more seasoning in AAA. Don't forget, he only pitched what? I think he made two or three starts in AAA before they called him up, and you could see he was not quite there. You could see flashes of brilliance, but he needed a little bit more seasoning at the AAA level. This allows them to do that, and then they got these guys in reserve. Should a starter go down? Then they have a Christian Scott. They have a Myers they could throw in there as a swing man. Though I think he will start, as I said before, in the bullpen the season. But they'll have these uh, options. And not to mention, they have other guys in the minors that are starting to push. Jonathan Santucci, Jack Wenninger, a couple other guys, younger guys that are pushing their way through the system. So they're loaded right now, and now is the time to strike. We shall see, but it's just amazing how we went from being in such despair about who's going to play where, and now all of a sudden we have a center fielder and we have an ace pitcher, and we're filling out the bullpen a little bit more, and we got a bat for the lineup. So in 1 week's time or 10 days, he's filled a lot of the needs. Now they could still use another bat. Um, we still not sure where Beatty's going to play if he stays with the team, unless there's another trade in the works. I don't think so. I think there's a possibility that he's done. There could be another free agent signing for perhaps another outfielder, but I think the trade route, I think they're pretty well done. We shall see. We don't know. We don't know who could be available and pop up, and you know, you make the deal if it's worthwhile. I mean, anything is possible at this stage, but still have a question mark in left field. Now we have Soto in right. Center field is going to be Luis Robert Jr. and Tyrone Taylor. Not in a platoon, but just that'll be Taylor can play to give Robert a day off. Um, let's see. Left field is the big spot. I think Carson Bange will probably get a chance there. Brett Beatty might play some out there. Uh, we shall see. I think Brett Beatty's going to play some second. He's going to play some third. He's going to play some first base and play some left field. Now, I had suggested a while back that Beatty play first base, and there is still the opportunity for that, even though Jorge Polanco is signed and he could. The idea is he will play first base. But let's take a look at how it shapes up now. First base will be Polanco with a combination. It could be Beatty. It could be Vientos in there as well as it stands right now. Second base is going to be Marcus Simeon, with Beatty giving some time in there as well. And shortstop will be Lindor. Third base will be Bo Bichette. Alvarez will be behind the plate with Torrens. So that's pretty set. Right field, as we said, was set with Soto, Senna, Luis Robert Jr., and left field is going to be the question. It could be Taylor, it could be Carson Mange, could be Brett Beatty, That's why I think there could be one more trade left, or the Mets can sign some journeymen, invite them to spring training, see if somebody can win the job if left field. If not, and Carson Baines can show that he can handle it and hit on this level, he will be the left fielder. They can always add during the season. You know that the team at the end of the season is never the same roster as the beginning of the season. So they could add throughout the season if a deal comes up, especially at the deadline, if they could get an outfield, if they need one. You know, Baines could take over the job and hit 300 and hit 20 homers. We don't know if that's a possibility, but I mean, it could happen. You never know. But we shall wait and see at this point in time and see what happens. But right now, the Mets have a more reasonable squad than they did just a week ago. And it's pretty amazing, but it just shows you how fast things can happen when you want it to go. And boy, it went. It really went. There's still, to me, there's still not anybody that's real that I could say I really like. That means doesn't mean I dislike anybody, but I guess I'm still hurting from the Nimmo and Alonso and Diaz leaving. But I really like Nimmo. I really like Beatty too, so I hope he stays and gives me somebody to grab onto. I guess you could call it that, but at least the Mets have players now and decent players for these slots that we were concerned about. I do believe that they're done tinkering with the pitching staff. You never know. As I said, they could add a small, pieces here and there. They did add another utility infielder in Vidal Brugine. I think that's how you say it. And he will be in camp, and he can play every position except catcher. So that could be something to consider too and to watch. But he could be Lindor's backup. Polanco's played over there. There's a lot of backups for backups here. But the main thing is they have main players. Even though a couple of guys are playing out of position, which I never really liked. But we'll see how that works out. Personally, I think maybe they should have considered Bo Bichette for first base and kept Beatty at third. I don't know. But, and use Polanco in a swing role. We shall see. But very interesting, and we'll see how it all shakes out. David Stearns did the job in 1 week, and boy, I tell you, he did make a move when he when he wanted to, and when it all seemed to fall into place in all that in that time between Robert Jr. and Peralta. So hats off to him. That's all I can say. All right, let's take a break and come back with some other big news on the Mets front right after this.
Hi, this is Leonard Hollywood Aberman, and I'm here with my dear friend and co-host on the Baseball and Barbecue podcast,
Jeff the Oak Coot Cohen, and you're listening to Mets Musings with
Gary Mack.
For baseball histories, stories, and great interviews with authors and players, listen to Baseball and BBQ. For barbecue, we have great pitmasters, recipes, interviews.
Just great things. Listen, there's baseball podcasts, there's barbecue podcasts, but there's not a podcast that has both. We do. You're going to love it. Baseball and barbecue, great guests, decent hosts, but you're going to love it. So
Yes,
tune in.
we have a lot of fun, and it's available on all your podcast apps.
And we're back. And what an exciting bit of news this is. Carlos Beltran has officially been elected to Cooperstown. He appeared on 84.2% of Baseball Writers Association of America ballots to clear the 75% threshold needed for entry in his fourth year on the ballot. He will go into the Hall of Fame alongside Jeff Kent, whom the Contemporary Baseball Era Committee elected last month, and Andrew Jones, who also gained entry via the BBWAA ballot. Now that he's a Hall of Famer, Beltran is likely, but not certain, but he could enter Cooperstown with a Mets cap on his plaque, though he has not made a formal decision. He seemed to be leaning towards it. His best career years were with the Mets. Excuse me. He also played with Houston and Kansas City. And Carlos Beltran, though, and he's now with the Mets organization, is going into the Hall of Fame. His induction will take place alongside Andrew Jones and Jeff Kent on July 26th. So congratulations to Carlos Beltran. And keep in mind, very interesting, two former Mets are going into the Hall of Fame. Jeff Kent played for the Mets. Really got pretty much his big league career started with the Mets. Got his chance here after he was traded for David Cohn. And then, of course, he had his best years in San Francisco. But he's still a former Met. So another former Met going into the Hall of Fame. And congratulations to him and Andrew Jones. Another competitor of an NL East team. So Andrew Jones, who played for the Braves, he may have played. I think he played for the Royals as well for a few years. Going into baseball's Hall of Fame, but Carlos Beltran, who may or could be the next Mets manager if anything goes wrong here with Mendoza, if he doesn't win. I think Beltran is with the Mets and just in the shadows, and we'll see what happens there. You never know, but he is a baseball Hall of Famer and just a terrific. He had some great years while in New York, and I hope he does go in with a Mets cap on. Sometimes Cooperstown has something that they will. The player makes a suggestion, and if he doesn't push it hard enough, they will push in a different direction, Cooperstown. But I think in this case, I believe he played the most years of his careers in New York. Of course, he could always opt for the no designation cap, where there's no logo on a cap, just a plain cap on. And but that stinks. It should be somebody, and I think it should be the Mets, and it would be nice, There's only two guys I think that went in with Mets caps on so far, and that's Tom Seaver and Mike Piazza. Though there are a lot of former Mets in the Hall of Fame. but only two went in as New York Mets. And as I said, that was Mike Piazza and Tom Seaver. Um, there's a ton of others. I mean, Willie Mays and Gil Hodges and excuse me. Oh boy, I can't think offhand now. Two more now going in. But congratulations to Carlos Beltran. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. Boy, what a crazy week. And the snow is coming down as I look out the window, and it's crazy. So it's only a couple of weeks to pitches and catches, and they'll be glad to get out of New York, the players that live here, and get down to that warm Florida sunshine. Though I got to tell you, I hear it was 22 or something the other day down there. So parts of Florida, it's not so warm yet, but at least they're not getting this blizzard or whatever you want to call this big, huge winter storm that is affecting really the whole country, they say, pretty much. So remember that Mets Musings is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Play and wherever you want to, whatever podcast app you use, we are on it. It's also available a video version on YouTube and Rumble. And if you're watching the video version, please leave a comment or a like and hit the subscribe button. It helps us track people and know when who's listening, and also it'll let you know when a new episode of Mets Musings is coming out. So until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay optimistic, and let's go Mets. And I'm Gary Mack, and I'll see you next time on another edition of Mets Musings.